You're listening to the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast, a place for sex addicts to share their experiences of recovery, to help break the stigma, myths, and misconceptions of sex addiction. This podcast may contain topics of sexuality, sexual trauma, dysfunction, or other things that may be triggering, so listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast. My name is Jason, I'm a sex addict, and I will be your podcast host for today. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode number 38 of the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast. This week and next week, I am excited to be sharing the speaker shares from our quarterly SAA and COSA speaker meeting. This one occurred on November 6th. And for today's episode, I'm going to be sharing Michael R., who has been in the program of SAA for 22 years. And next week, we'll be sharing Amy S., who is in COSA, and she has been in that program for 5 years. So I've known Michael R. for a number of years, and I can't remember the exact first time that I met him, whether it was at the San Francisco Saturday morning meeting or if it was at our annual retreat. I know at our retreats that I have attended some of his workshops on sponsorship, which have been tremendously helpful. In addition to the workshops, I've also known him through the talent show at our retreats, where Michael loves to sing, and I'll be sharing one of the songs that we were supposed to work together on at the March 2020 retreat, which ended up getting canceled because of the pandemic. But yeah, he had asked me to play guitar accompaniment for him while he was going to sing, and that's a Ray Charles song, and I'll be sharing that towards the end of the episode. In addition to Michael's share, we also had an announcement about our annual Giving Thanks event that happens every November. And this is a fundraiser that is for the ISO, the International Service Organization, and it's also a social event, a time where we can get together. And last year we were unable to do it in person, so we did it on Zoom. And I am so grateful that we will finally be able to see each other. I haven't seen a lot of these people in a couple of years because of the pandemic. People from around the Bay Area that I do not see at local meetings. So I'm really looking forward to that. Similarly, how I came up with the idea of doing a podcast out of my 12th step as a way of giving back to the SAA community, someone in our program started the idea of doing a fundraiser for the ISO to show our appreciation for all that they do. And I know it's been a while since I've mentioned it. If you're a new listener to the podcast, this is a project that came out of the San Francisco Bay Area Intergroup. And our intergroup runs the Bay Area SAA.org website and helps out with local events. On a grander scale, we have the International Service Organization who does this internationally. And I wanted to read a little bit out of the Green Book about what the International Service Organization does. And this reading comes from the Green Book on pages 75 and 76, from Chapter 5, Our Purpose, and the section of Service. I'll be reading the first paragraph and then skipping ahead to a paragraph on page 76. We depend on each other to stay sexually sober, and SAA depends on our service to keep functioning. Service in SAA ranges from one-on-one outreach over a cup of coffee to the worldwide outreach performed by the International Service Organization, ISO. Helping keep SAA running is an extension of carrying our message of recovery. Our voluntary efforts are essential to the success of the fellowship and the recovery of every sex addict who is a part of it. Skipping ahead to page 76. At the international level, the ISO provides services that member groups and intergroups cannot provide on their own. ISO helps to ensure that our SAA message remains uniform and available to groups worldwide as they arise. In addition, ISO answers letters, phone calls, and emails asking for information, maintains the World Meeting Directory, operates a website, publishes and provides translations of SAA literature, organizes international events and conferences, and provides many other services determined by the needs and funded by the contribution of the member groups. Since the beginning of this podcast, I haven't really brought up any mentions of donations, Seventh Tradition donations to local meetings, our local intergroup, or the ISO. But in this episode, I wanted to make a special note of it, that we'll be doing our annual Giving Thanks event on November 20th. And we do have links to contribute if you are so inclined. And I will leave links for that in the show notes for this episode. All that being said, back to the recording for this week. Again, this comes from our quarterly SAA and COSA speaker meeting. And for the podcast recording, I cut out the beginning of the speaker meeting. And we do have the voice of Jana, who was the host of the event, followed shortly by Dan F., who did an introduction for Michael R.'s speaker chair. And as I mentioned, right after that, we have the announcement of the giving thanks at the very end of the recording. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to that recording. Here it is. I hope you enjoy it.
Twelve-step recovery requires honesty, open-mindedness, willingness. Our speakers tonight will share both for about 30 minutes on what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, followed by group sharing. As we hear their stories, some of you might experience uncomfortable feelings. We encourage you to take care of yourselves, and if you are triggered, please feel free to step out of the Zoom room for a few minutes or do what you need for self-care. You are not alone. In this meeting, the SAA speaker is going to go first, followed by the COSA speaker, and then we'll open it up to general shares. I will now turn it over to Dan F., who will introduce our first speaker, Michael R.
Thank you, Jana. My name's Dan F. I'm a sex addict. And yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce Michael R. as the SAA speaker. I met Michael in 2007 when I asked him to be my sponsor, and we've been working together ever since. And one of the things I admired about Michael at the time was I could hear in his shares his commitment to the 12 steps and to the principles of recovery. And over the years, as I've gotten to know him and become his friend, I can still see that commitment in his actions and in the way he shows up in life. And I love that about him. I try to model my own program after the way that Michael does his program, and it's really helped me over the years. So, and then outside of that, I think as a result of that, actually, he's just genuinely a warm, funny, sensitive, and loving person. And I just am honored to be his friend and be in recovery with him. So with that, I will turn it over to Michael R.
Thank you, Dan. I'm Michael. I'm a sex addict. Grateful to be here tonight and to be asked to speak. Wanted to time it so I am not running over, so I just hit that. I'm going to start with my inner circle, which is like taking alcohol if you're in the beverage program. Inner circle is sex with anyone outside of my marriage, entering adult bookstores or any known acting out places, sexualized massage, and viewing pornography. I'm the third of 6 children. I grew up in the 1950s. It was a violent home. My father was an alcoholic and just very, I believe he probably needed a lot of the medications that are out now to calm him down, and he didn't. And there was guns would come out, and I dare you to say that again, while holding a cocked shotgun in his hand. And he was arrested for doing bad things. And I did my best to try to be invisible in that home, just trying to hide and not be noticed. It was a lot of it was a big deal. So about 11 or 12, I discovered masturbation, and my God, it was like this fix-all for my life that it would just take me to someplace else, and I didn't have to think about the home that I was living in. I came out as a gay person around 19. I hadn't learned any boundaries about life, and just went home with people that maybe I didn't want to go home with, and do things with them that I didn't really want to do. And along the way, I discovered anonymous sex, and it just seemed easier because I was uncomfortable talking to people, and I didn't know how to do that. So I just did that. And, a lot of the story is so repetitive of doing anonymous sex and getting sexually transmitted diseases. And then really thinking, I really want a life partner. And if I meet the right person, I'm not going to do this kind of behavior anymore. Or when I get older, I'm not going to be doing this. And, life went on. And in 1989, and I'm mentioning this because it relates to my SAA story, but in 1989, I entered the beverage program. And I was I didn't like it. I thought all those people were a bunch of busybodies. They were, all the lingo, keep coming back, it works. And the God stuff was such a turnoff. And my idea was, leave me alone. I'm going to learn these 12 steps in about a year, and I'm going to lose all you losers. And that's going to be the end of it. And I got a sponsor. I did kind of warm up to it. I did the 90 and 90, which is what we do here in this program, or it is suggested that we do it. And I got a sponsor, and he said about sex, he said, well, you can have as much sex as you want, but just be safe and don't drink. So I didn't get around to coming into here until it was 10 years later in 1999. And it was in the same 5-day period in January. The 10th is my beverage date, and the 15th is my SAA sober date. Anyway, what got me in here was I met the man of my dreams, and he was wonderful. We met at a church we were attending. I got to know him gradually. He's just a good, kind, loving person. And he wanted monogamy. And I said, sure, of course. And he knew I had been around the block. And I was fine for 9 months or so. And he went out of town on business, and I went and got a massage, a sexualized massage. And that would happen every few months or so. And then my job changed. I was working downtown, and one day I was walking around, and there was an adult bookstore, and I looked at it and I thought, I can just go in here. I'll just go in and look at some pictures, and that'll be it, and then I'll leave. And I went in, and the next thing I knew, I was outside. I had been in the back room. I had had anonymous sex, and I didn't even know how it happened. I just, like my brain was completely checked out. And I said, well, that will never happen again. I will never go in that disgusting place. And then as the weeks passed, it was a daily occurrence of going there and doing that. And the most horrible thing was at night, I was lying next to the person that meant more to me than anything. And I knew I was a liar and I was crazy and I didn't know what to do. And then one day I discovered that I had an STD. And I went and they said, yes, you do. And whoever you've been with intimately, you'll need to tell them. And I argued with the guy, well, I don't really have it. And he said, yes, you do. And you have to tell them. So I called my sponsor and told him this is what happened. And he says, well, he's going to be mad, but you're going to still have to tell him. And that was Friday. Couldn't tell him Friday. And then mid-Saturday, he was, in the morning, he was bringing me coffee in bed. And how in the hell am I going to tell him? And I came into the living room and I started to talk and I started breaking down crying. And he said, Michael, whatever it is, we'll figure it out. And I said, I got an STD and it was just this one thing I did. It was one time and I'm sorry. And I said, well, why don't we go see our couples counselor? And I would like to go first. And usually we went together, but he said, oh, okay. And I went in a day or so, I was in the office of the couples counselor and told him the truth, that I was doing it all the time. And he said to me, you're a sex addict and you're in denial that you're a sex addict. And I want you to get to 3 S recovery meetings before I see you next week. And I don't care which ones you go to, and you find them yourself. And now you go home to Joe now and you tell him the exact truth. And I did. And what I heard from Joe was, if you're not serious about this program, I'm out of here. And I'm so glad that I heard that I had to take care of this. I went to an SAA meeting and a man there said, if sex is your problem, go to SAA. When you get there, define your circles and get a sponsor, and that'll make a huge difference in your program. I went to a meeting on a Monday night. I really thought that when I told them what I was doing, I thought they would throw me out and say, you're disgusting. We don't want you here. And they welcomed me. And the big deal was there were some people in the room that were doing what I was doing. I don't know if they had 30 days or 60 days, but it was a million days into my ears. And I thought, wow, I got some brochures. I got a meeting schedule. In my first year, I went to 1 or 2 meetings a day for the first year. I did not trust myself. At the noon meeting, I just thought, I don't know what's going to happen here, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to act out for this hour. And I was just grabbing hold of that. I argued with my sponsor. He said, call me every day. Tell me 3 things you're going to do today to stay sober. And I said, well, I didn't have to do that in my other program. And he said, you weren't acting out every day in your other program either. So just call me. And at one point, I was given a prayer sheet in a tools meeting. And he said, you know that prayer sheet? Oh, yeah. And he said, well, start saying, we took out the sheet and he checked all the prayers. He said, say these every morning. And I said, oh, I don't have time. And he says, Michael, it's only going to take a few minutes. And I did it because if it could give me any insurance that I wasn't going to act out, just take the 5 minutes and say the prayers. I did. I began writing my first step. I was attending first step meetings, and it blew me away that how did these people get up in front of a group and tell all their dark secrets about their acting out? And I don't know if I can do this. And I just went and I kept praying for willingness to just do whatever I have to do to, part of my recovery is just to take the leap of faith. And the acronym that I like a lot for God is the gift of desperation. And I was desperate. And there was a lot of people in the fellowship, and the program was growing. It was just, there was one man, his name was Gene, and we were talking at the meeting, on the street one day, and he says, your first year, you just have to live and breathe program. You still have to do your job to take care of your family, and you got to take care of your family, but you got to live and breathe program. And I was, that's exactly how I feel, that I have to make this work for myself. I have to get a new life where acting out is not the main thing that has to happen. I would take all day acting out and going to beaches or parks or any place that I heard there might be anonymous sex there. And one of the affirmations on the prayer sheet was, the life I have known is over. And that was like a good, like in the old cartoons where the character gets a frying pan in the face. That was just, I was getting a lot of frying pans in the face by the literature. And I came in January, and my commitment was to do my first step to the group by May. And I did that. And I was nauseous the night that I did that. But I did it. And I thought, and then afterwards we went, a group of us went for food, and I got a lot of love and support. It's just amazing that in my head, they're going to spit at me and they're going to tell me they don't like me. And I got love for telling them this difficult story. And then I heard from my sponsor that I was ready for sponsorship. And I said, oh, no, I'm not. And he said, yeah, you're ready to do this. And he said, if you don't know something, you can just say, let me talk to my sponsor, or let's pray about it. So I started sponsoring. And the big thing about sponsorship, it helps me. If I'm going to talk to you about one of the steps, I better know what I'm talking about. So that's been helpful. And I began doing service positions, just knowing that if I act out, then they're not going to have this service position filled. And it was just helpful to just to do that. Just telling the truth is a big deal. It's kind of, I believe 12-step recovery has helped me to grow up, because I have to tell the truth about myself. It was also when I went back to therapy. That was one of the things my sponsor said, are you in therapy now? I said, no. He says, well, you will be. And it was perfect time to go. There was so much that comes up by writing out the step work around your sexual history. So I still do service. I still go to a lot of meetings. I couldn't believe that during the pandemic, that how was it all going to happen? But Zoom is great. Right now, I just feel privileged that I'm here. I'm with other people in the room, or maybe people that are looking for answers. The program has worked for me. And I had a lot of things writing on it. And I just, I never thought I would be as old as I was and still doing this lifestyle. I was 39 years old when I went in the beverage program, and 49 when I came in here. And it wasn't working years and years ago. And it definitely wasn't working in my 30s or 40s. And I just didn't want to continue with that, but I didn't know how. I just didn't know there were these rooms, and that there was just so many other people that are in recovery and they want to get better. Or I just want to live a life that I can look myself in the mirror and not be just this crazy lying person that was just trying to get their next fix. So I don't know, I have a lot of gratitude today. Recently, not recently, but in the last couple of years, I never did much 10th step. And I just thought, why don't you just keep it simple? So it's each day it's what went right today, what could have gone better today, and what am I grateful for? And sometimes the list is long, and sometimes it isn't. But just getting into that habit is helping me. And it's another tool to stay sober and to just stay connected with myself. And being around other recovering people is a blessing. So I'm going to finish up here. If you didn't get anything out of this, just go to another meeting. And I'm grateful that I spoke tonight. This program has changed my life. And I'm been with Joe now for 25 years. And it's not a day goes by that I don't have so much gratitude for that. And he would tell you that he feels the same way. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Michael. We're going to do a quick thank you where everybody will be unmuted for 1 minute, and we can talk over each other just to say thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael. That was awesome.
Thank you, Michael.
Michael.
Good job.
Thank you, Michael.
Good.
Share.
Fantastic.
Gratitude.
Appreciate
your story.
Thank you for your sharing.
Thank you.
Michael.
Thank you for your talk.
Thank you, Michael.
That was fun.
You're muted.
Thanks. Thank you, Michael, for your wonderful share. There will be time after the second speaker for group sharing. Before we go to our second speaker, we have an announcement. I'll turn to Hunter.
Hi, I'm Hunter. I'm a grateful recovering sex addict. It's great to be here tonight. Oh my gosh, that last minute was the most awesome thing I have seen in a while. So, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to announce Giving Thanks 2021. We are doing it in person this year after doing it remotely last year. I posted some information to the chat. For those of you who don't know, Giving Thanks is an annual event where we come together for fellowship, to see one another, to support one another, and also to raise money for our international organization. And I don't think I can emphasize enough how important the international is right now and how much help they provide to local meetings. In the Bay Area, we have a very rich culture where I'm from, but elsewhere, people really don't have that support, and the international helps to provide that. So I hope you will check the I did post it in the chat already. So if you look in the chat up above, there is an announcement which explains how to give. And I will also put my name and phone number in the chat in case people want to connect with me. If they have questions, or in particular, if they'd like to volunteer, we could always use people to help setting up, breaking down, and that sort of thing. The last thing I'll say is just that this is a family and partner friendly event. So I encourage those of you who have partners to bring them. It's designed to welcome everyone, not just recovering sex addicts. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, and thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Once again, much gratitude for the SAA COSA Speaker Meeting Committee for putting on this event and allowing us to use the recording for the podcast. I loved including Hunter's announcement about the giving thanks, and I will be there. If anyone wants the address where it will be, if you are in Northern California, I would be happy to provide that. You can email me at jason@sexaddictsrecoverypod.com, and I can give you that information. And like I said, I will be leaving links for that in the show notes if you wish to donate. It was really great to hear Michael's story. I've heard many of his shares at meetings, and like I mentioned, the sponsorship workshop that I attended at our retreat, but I haven't really heard much of his story before, and so I was really honored to be present for the speaker event and to hear his share. And maybe on a future episode, we can have him and a couple other people talk about sponsorship. It's a topic that I've been meaning to cover for quite some time. So I did mention that Michael loves to sing at our retreat talent show, and I was honored that he asked me to play guitar accompaniment for a song that we were going to perform at the 2020 retreat. And I wanted to play a little bit of the song, and this is Ray Charles, You Don't Know Me.
You give your hand to me, and then you say hello, and I can hardly speak. My heart is beating so, and anyone can tell. You think you know me well, but you don't know me. No, you don't know me. No, you don't know the one who dreams of you at night and longs to kiss your lips and longs to hold you tight. Oh, I'm just a friend, that's all I've ever been, 'cause you don't know me. No, you don't know me.
A beautiful, beautiful song. And I'm really hoping that we can have the chance at some point in the future to get together and to be able to play music together. That's about all I have for this week. There was not a lot of feedback. I did get some on the YouTube channel that I will be discussing next week because it surrounds more of a COSA aspect, and it was the first negative feedback that we've gotten for the podcast. And so, yeah, I will talk about that next week. But if you are wanting to provide feedback for the podcast, please email us at feedback@sexaddictsrecoverypod.com. And again, if you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me directly at jason@sexaddictsrecoverypod.com. Thank you once again for listening this week. And as always, keep coming back. The views and opinions contained in the Sex Addicts Recovery Podcast are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of the Bay Area Intergroup or the ISO of SAA.